Hello and welcome to this video. My name is Allie with A. Marie Speaks. Thanks so much for checking out my channel and for tuning in to this video. I am titling this one Egoic versus Heart-Centered Sharing. And I am sort of including this, I guess, in my Negative Agendas, Tricks and Traps series that I promote over on BitChute. It's a video that I felt I had to make before I share a project that I've been working on over on BitChute about the timeline of the Negative Agenda and the Archons through time. And if you're interested in that and you are catching this over on YouTube, because I am going to put this up on YouTube as well to try to get the fringes of the normies maybe to check out BitChute. But if you are new to the topic of Archons or the Negative Agenda or good versus evil or whatever you want to look at that kind of setup as, I have a ton of videos over on BitChute, maybe under 20, around 20-ish I think now, on the topic. So if you're intrigued by what I'm talking about and you'd like to hear more, I'll put some links in the description or in the comments on some of the more foundational videos from my Negative Agenda series for easy access for anybody who's curious. For today, the concept here is about the value of sharing and the intentions that we go into spaces of sharing with. This is sort of a preamble kind of thing for myself before I get into the timeline I've been building. And it felt like, how do I say this quickly? Over the weeks and months even that I have been doing the Negative Agenda series and I have been compiling this timeline, it has really become a great source of work for me. Not just informational resource and resource gathering, but for shadow and light work and energy balancing and alchemy. I had noticed, obviously, and I talk about this so much, and this is why I really want to share this here at the beginning, and I just feel like it's a great life example, because I talk a lot about the importance of balancing light and shadow and positive and negative energies and things that you're seeking and allowing into your space and exposing yourself to, and how important it is to be mindful of that. But everybody does this kind of like things that are, we see it from one angle and we're like, oh yeah, I know that already. But then we kind of turn a blind eye, or we don't see doing the same thing, but from this other angle now, from a different perception. And we turn our blinders on and we kind of like just ignore that that's happening. And that's what I was kind of doing all these weeks, well, not up till right now. This has been, a couple of weeks of practicing getting out of this state and getting ready to prepare to share. But anyways, I was getting bogged down, collecting a lot of negativity around it. And then I was like having to do extra light and shadow workings, really defined to kind of work through the stages and information that I'm going through while I was making up this whole timeline. And then I kind of had this epiphany, recognizing what I was doing just in different way. And then I was like, oh, hold on a minute. No wonder I'm feeling, deflated and unmotivated to complete this timeline, because I'm forcing this sort of expectations onto the project, and I am allowing a lot of negativity to collect around it. And then I'm wondering why I'm not enjoying doing it. And it's a negative subject to start with, you know? So that in itself had to be, you know, self-actualization. I had to realize, I had to go through the motions with myself to realize the mistakes that I was making, right? And then now to correct them. And so that correction sort of actions is and was this epiphany that I had about just sharing what I have, rough drafts. And that over the weeks now has become a bigger source of working for me. Shadow and light work and understanding about sharing of a rough draft, of something you're not done with, of something that's just in the works, that's just a lot of different ideas. There's a lot of vulnerability there, a lot of potentials and probabilities, right? It depends on what kind of cloth that you're cut from. Also, some people do come into this makeup, come into this world with a makeup who are easier, you know, to get this, or they just come, they're just set, you know, more open and less judgmental. But some of us aren't, and some of us really can be cut from like a perfectionist sort of cloth. And I speak from example for myself, you know, I struggle a lot with that kind of inner child, egoic sort of personalities that really present a lot of disruptions when you go to share things that aren't finished, or that you feel you haven't polished in the way that you would like to. But that in itself is really the shadow controlling, because why do you have to polish it to perfection in order for others to see it? Because you want it to be seen in a certain way. And that's restrictive and controlling in itself. And it's not fair. It's not fair to yourself, and it's not fair to the creation. It's not fair to the present moment of creating it either, of imagining it, designing it, and bringing it into solid form. That is supposed to be the best part. That's supposed to be like, you know, where you're in it to win it. And you know, I'm denying myself that joy when I am, you know, working to perfect things. Make sure that they're seen a certain way. Same thing with information, right? With the timeline, for example. It was such a big work through for me to understand and to be like, okay, now I'm approaching, gonna share it in like the next videos, and I had to do a lot of processing and a lot of internal work to get to that place of comfortability, of where I can be like, okay, this is a rough draft. This is just the pinpoints that I have come across so far to this moment. It's not finished, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be. Here, look at it. Do you see these same things? Do you know every point already? Great. Do you did you learn something new? Awesome. Do you have points that I missed to put in there? Like, put them in and share them. Great. You know, do you want to take it off and throw it away? If that's what you want to do, cool. If, you know, you think it's a bunch of nonsense, then that's okay too. That is such a scary place for a lot of us to be in, you know, no matter what it is. But when we put effort and we put time and we put our energy into things, and we want to promote our best version, or we want to promote hard work, you know, and share it with others, it becomes really what's the word? Not self-aware, but like insecure. I can't think of the exact word that I'm trying to think of right now. But I can be very insecure, right? Because you don't know how that information is going to be seen, and then we get these like entanglements and these anchors into the information or the creation or whatever it is, and we identify with it, and then we think, oh, people are going to judge us based on this creation, and so they're going to tie us sort of to this thing and identify us with it. And so we better showcase it in the best way because we want to be seen in this way. And if, you know, if ever you're wondering if something is negative or positive, or if ever you're wondering, you know, if you're turning Luciferian or, you know, self-centered, look at where the intention lies and look at what you're seeking and why. And if it's contortion, if it's just a representation, and it's an illusion that you're creating to be seen for others, that's a big red flag. And they happen all the time. And so, you know, as like I said, like a living example, I am going to bring forth this timeline and share it and show what I have so far, and let others take it if they want to or if they don't, you know, and share it open source in a free PDF or whatever, so people can take it and edit it if they want, or share it, or get rid of a couple things and make it their own, you know. It's my hope when by doing that I'm creating this kind of open, energetic space that values sharing of information, communication, energy exchanges, communion, all of those kind of things that ignite this visualization of an open place of acceptance to do work in together. It's a hard thing for lots of us, and whether, you know, you've been on this kind of awakening journey for quite a while, like a decade like I have, or maybe it's been 5 years, or maybe you just woke up, maybe you've been awake for years, your whole life, or, you know, maybe you're older than I am and it's been 25 years for you, 30 years or something. There is never enough experience. There's never enough data points when we're seeking for infinity, right? So you can always learn more, you can always incorporate more, there's always a deeper level to take it at. And so it is always kind of good for a renewal and a reminder that we could get into this aware state of when we're sharing, and when we're creating a space with intention of sharing. Now, before I get into my main topic about like egoic versus heart-centered sharing, which is what I really want to focus on, I want to give a quick sort of metaphor example of where we're at today, with the collection of information and with the with looking at humanity sort of as a whole picture, a whole body on a progress of working, and we're all sort of, the humans are like the cells of the one human body, right? Each individual is like the cell inside that body. We make up a whole. When you zoom out enough and far enough, just like if you were to zoom in to yourself and down to a skin cell, right? I mean, when we zoom out, you see the whole body. So that's kind of what I'm trying to give as a metaphor about humanity being as one. I know sometimes people struggle with understanding about oneness. I feel from a more logical way of envisioning it is something very simple like that, understanding the lenses of consciousness and the sacred boundaries that separate us from that which is larger, yet the same. A cell to you, you know. Anyways, my point being that this world that we're in right now is a special time, and it is a strong calling of mine to share information and get people ready for graduation and get people on their path, making actual choices, you know, getting going with your own body and your own purpose and energies into a direction that carries some momentum, right? So that when we all can get together, we all kind of are at our best, right? We're doing the good work. We're balanced. We're mastering and working to hone and tone these energetic alchemist muscles, so to speak. Because when we can get together, once we've all started this work, that's where the magic happens. That's when we see big changes. You know what I mean? That's what graduation is. Taking us towards. And graduation, a simple metaphor to example this as is, yes, look at it like schooling. Elementary, middle, high school graduation. That's a great way to simply look at this. Now, the thing I want to give as like a little metaphor for humanity here before we get started is that this ascension, this progression that we've all been on, that Earth is on, 75,000 year cycle, 25,000, between the dawn of Aquarius and the shifting of the planets, the Mayan calendars, the resets, all of these kind of different examples we have, letting us know that the time is approaching, right? It's happening. And we have a bit of a lag going on, I guess is what I'll say here. And I feel this metaphor kind of explains the lagging a little bit, and it really ties into the concept of sharing and about gathering information and about doing our own work, right? Now, envision the graduation that we're talking about, the ascension of Earth or whatever, as fall on a farm, right? We are ready for harvest. Lots of the plants are, and the vegetation or whatever, all of it's ready to be picked. We need all hands on deck at that kind of time for picking and preserving what is ripe at the time, right? In the real sacred present moment. The season, it's now. Like nature tells us it's now. Organic matrix tells us it's now. Our inner self, our inner farmer, our steward tells us, we recognize the ripeness of our garden. Now, the thing is that in the matrix overlay, or in this reality we're presented with, we are told we each must make our own garden, and that you have to do it like from page one. And so a lot of people who are kind of newly waking up, who are poking their head out of the herd, who realize actually there's farmers who are doing work over there and maybe I might actually belong with them. I don't belong in this kind of like herd mass of following instincts and being led. I have my own sight, my own ears and eyes to see, and curiosity to draw me up and out. And I see people doing great work over there. Or I see something I want to do, like sparkly, to go get it, right? So we get up out of the herd and we go to the fringes, or we go to the woods, or we go over to that farm. And we're presented with this idea now that, okay, you've got to go till the land. You've got to, get rid of all the rocks. You've got to flip the soil. You've got to sow all the seeds. Each one, like here's watermelon, potato, carrots. Go find them on your own. Put them in the ground, figure out how they grow, water them, watch them, and you better have the best garden before you even attract anybody over to you to help you with gardening, or to be able to bring your food to the table, or whatever the case is, whatever like the end game is. Now, you see this other huge garden out there, right? We're presented with the collective garden as well, and it's like, that garden is in the present moment, and it's ready to be harvested. It's ready to be, worked. And all of these new people who are waking up and leaving the herd and going to start their own garden, we're like, hey, come and help us do the work that needs to be done right now. Don't start your own garden. It's fall. You're tilling land in the fall. Why are you doing that? You're never going to last. Winter is coming, you know. You don't need to start your own garden. You don't have to go and, you know, grow a pineapple tree and wait for your tree. Ours is already here, right? Ours has already been growing, and we need help gathering up the right food now. That is the conspiracy model, basically. And the thing is, you're never gonna be able to bring forth, you know, your best garden, your ripest fruit, your biggest bounty, or your harvest, or whatever. You know, it's not possible for you to do that in the time that it's going to take. And the trick and the trap is that that's not even necessary. It's already here. It's already ready to share. And so if we just all came to the table together with whatever we had at the moment, right now in the real present moment, and we put the work together, we would actually have, you know, be able to prepare for winter as a collective, instead of, you know, everybody off on their own thinking that they have to grow their garden and have, you know, the point is, I guess, that I really want to impress here is it really is harvest time. And so if you didn't put the work in already, it really doesn't matter, you know. We get wrapped and trapped in this idea that you have to start from scratch in order to really know something, and in order to really be a good farmer. That's another misconception. That's a negative inversion of the truth. If instead you just come to the table where everybody is, you will find out that you could be of service there. There's a job for you to do. They have something you can help with. But the agendas don't want us to all gather, right? So there's a lot of entanglements, and there's a lot of deterrents that will keep you from wanting to share. Just like I had just talked about wanting to share my own projects and my timeline and stuff, and having all of these kind of little insecurities and vulnerabilities about the way that the information that I have compiled will come across, you know. To shake that off and let that go and say, I don't care how it comes across. I know for myself, I did honest seeking. I'm seeking truth, shining my light and sharing what my light, you know, shows. It's that intentional place that we have to really get to in order to even understand that, I guess. That's what I'm hoping to kind of be explaining. I know I'm kind of not doing as well as I would like to be doing right now. But that's okay. Things happen, and, you know, we have to just keep presenting the most transparent and honest version of ourselves that we can in every present moment. I mean, what else do we do, right? But move through. So the point with this whole metaphor, and to look at the bigger picture and to tie it all together here, is that in the scope of reality time, on this plane, in this world, we are approaching graduation. Winter is coming in this metaphor. And so the point of the harvest is to share the bounty and to survive the winter and to make it through and to make sure everybody has enough. That's what the whole thing has been put forward through. And the more people who are waking up right now and who maybe haven't been doing all of the hard work over the years, you don't need to go and find out the truths for yourself around X, Y, and Z of all of these kind of falsities we've been fed. Just like you don't need to go and start your own garden off there and learn to be a farmer from the first tillings of the soil. The work's been done for us. We know we've been lied to. We have more than enough of a banquet of information to prove that they're the stink of the lies. The entire thing doesn't make any sense. And it's got a lot of falsity to it. And so what we really need is people to just come to the table so that we can share what we already have and be of service to you, because that's what we have done this whole time. Our mind, what our drive has been, people who've been in woke or whatever, awake to conspiracies or whatever, since who knows how long. For me, it's been decades, Some people it's been longer, some people it's been 5 years, some people it's been a year, some people it's been 3 years. They woke up with 2020, some people woke up at 9/11. We have these triggering kind of events. Other people, it was things in their own lives that woke them up, or in different areas as well, because there's a never-ending variety of lies and categories of how we wake up to lies and how we've been lied to. So whatever the case is, and whatever your section of the garden is, whatever, bring what you have to the table, as in your truth, and we can share the truths together. And then, because we're all coming together to be of service of others, we're seeking truth and positive alignments, we will have enough to survive. We will have, we will make it through the winter. We'll have a great harvest. We'll have a great bounty to share with anybody who's there. That's the guarantee. However, it's we have a lot of these kind of stigmas and things that are keeping people from sharing and from recognizing the great value in that, I guess. And so that's been kind of my little preamble up to, what has presented this video and how this video fits into my channel and all that. For the actual topic here, as with everything, I see it, on a scale of polarity, of a negative through positive possibilities, right? Spectrum. And if we take that same idea of spectrum or balancing, and we place logic and faith on that same spectrum, or mind and heart, or ego, versus ego-centered versus heart-centered, we can play with the shading and find nuances and definitions that maybe we didn't see within ourselves or within others or within society or community we're involved in, or maybe it's work or team or projects or whatever. When we remember that all of us, are not black or white, it's a shading, it's a change, then we allow people to actually be seen for who they are. That space of sovereignty is the foundation of sharing. In a natural, organic template, sharing wouldn't be shaded with so much negativity and so much expectations and it's very interesting. to me, and it just seems to align perfectly with the control mechanisms of the negative agenda and of the Archons to really build and fuel this kind of fire. To get humanity to forget that there is a spectrum, to get them to really place a lot of weight onto one side and to actually encourage stagnation and contortions, restrictions, right, into boxes and categories, and to create a false sense of requirement to be seen in a certain way. False expectations, negatively aligned expectations of things. It just, it's just reconfirming to me the truth, the undeniable truth of the way that energies work and systems work. And so, I don't want to get, I'm so tempted to get off onto a side rant about the control mechanisms of the Archons and their ultimate plan for humanity and all of that. But I'm going to really try to pull myself out of that. If you're intrigued by that as well and you wish I talk about it more, I have plenty of other videos that I do talk about it, so I'll put some links in the below. So I won't leave people kind of on a cliffhanger with that topic. But just understand and just know if it is kind of a new topic to you, or it is something that you haven't really heard it described in that way before. Just know that I feel very strongly that the Archons are very intelligent fools who have spent, centuries, lifetimes, working with data sets and algorithms to kind of pre-plan domino effects in all of these strategic, orchestrated choice points for energetic collection, right? To ensure more negative energy, more fuel for them, for their systems. Traps and snares and fishing lines everywhere. And of course, that's why it's so important for them to keep humanity kind of focused and doing this restrictive slowing down and boxing into segments so that they're easily controlled data points, instead of seeing everything on a spectrum with 100 possibilities for every choice point and a joy or a thrill in seeking your selections and making progress quickly. They don't want that whatsoever. That's not conducive to systems, negatively serving. And so they deter all of us from seeing these things on spectrum with great control mechanisms. And I talk a lot about that already with like the mind control tactics and the slave model and all that. But for now, I kind of just want to pull out of all of that and just talk about the value that can be found in intentional sharing. And it's a lot of words, it sounds a little wonky, but what I mean is coming to the table with what you have, as you have it, willing to offer it as service with the intention of helping others and seeking truth and seeking for yourself, this unconditional love place of acceptance and just as is really what I mean when I say sovereign worth or a space of sovereignty. So if we could all kind of accept that space and step into that space and bring that to the table as we get ready to share, I see that as 5D, New Earth, like ascended humanity, where solutions are coming from. The golden age of humanity will be heart-centered. We are graduating in, Earth is shifting into fourth and a bridge to fifth densities now. It's shedding those hard entanglements and those real solid material hooks and fishing lines of the third density. And It's a very difficult time for lots of us. And however, this is the shift. This is the change that we'll see. Getting out of and letting go of the ego mind, the third density, right? And focusing and moving up into the fourth, into the heart center. And even for people who don't understand the energetics or aren't into chakras or don't care about any of that, maybe you think that it's archonic or satanic, or maybe you think it's an agenda or something like that. All well and good. Hey, maybe things could be. I'm not to say anything that's presented within the matrix is, of course, orchestrated. However, through internal seeking and through imagination, source connection, undeniable truths reappear, and they show themselves to us through gnosis, through deep connection, and then we know what's true. And we can see the hijackings and the distortions and the manipulations of control over truth, because that's the only way the negative or Satan or evil, the Archons, that's the only power that they truly have, is the distortion, the inverting. But there has to be an original. There has to be the truth that they're inverting, right? So it's not, just because it's been an inversion, just because it's been kinked in the hose, don't forget the hose and where it came from and what it is, right? Source, God, original, the creator, infinite creator, right? So the progression here, regardless of what kind of way you want to look at it, a great showcasing is understanding that sort of egoic mind versus the heart center, and seeing, and maybe if this is brand new to you too, you can take away the surface level of the mind versus the heart, and start to see where that plays in you and where you might be called to be more in, and why, and do you feel pressured to present yourself in a certain way, whether it is heart-centered or mind-centered, and why, and how it tailor fits to you. And then there will come a working within there where it won't even be a versus anymore, and you'll realize, wait a minute, it's a balancing. It's a finding of a harmony between the two. It's not a silencing or an overpowering or I'm right and you're wrong, and you better change X, Y, and Z because this has how it has to work. It's not that at all. It's a listening and an understanding and a seeking of finding harmonious solutions for both, working with the affinities of both, and then using those to soften out the faults or the weaknesses, and give strength in places that need to be, right? And when you can finally kind of get into that place of working, then you know that you're ready to be offering up and getting into intentional sharing. It's, like I said, it's a sliding scale. It's different for everyone, and progression is different for everyone as well. And that's why for me, where I'm at in my personal present moment, where I have been over the years, back to the original model, I feel like I have been a farmer in that kind of conspiracy truth garden, digging and seeking truths and pulling them up out of the ground when they're ripe and ready, and putting them on the table, waiting, waiting for everybody else to come. I think now I can be a great model in real life of teaching through showing of this intentional sharing. And so I hope to do that through this exercise of the Archonic timeline, where I share my resources and information and references out to the open collective as however might be done with it, right? And to see and get feedback from it, and to hopefully create an open ground where actually, like, people could have replies, people could share information that they've found. They can give their feedback and say, this rings true to my truth too, and I feel a real distortion with that. Can we look at that? What do you mean by that? That is that's my hopes for creating this space. And I do feel like that's when each of us can kind of start to create these little spaces around us and these little offerings of, accepted creational space where we're coming from the heart center instead of the ego, then we'll really be able to get our hands dirty, find what's malleable, find real solutions, find real truths more and more. The great practice, I guess, I will say, is it's a difficult one. It seems kind of obvious, but at the same time, it becomes so, what's the word? Almost like your ego becomes like accessorized. You know what I mean? Like, it has this sort of luxury-seeking, flamboyant kind of drive to be seen and to be appreciated and to be admired. And that in itself, it has a value of working. All energy centers have a value of working. However, we have to find integrated communication between all of them. It's, and when you start to realize and speak with your ego, your inner child, your inner critic, whatever way that you like to look at that, the little devil on your shoulder, if you like that kind of thing or whatever, it's really hard to describe in generalities the kind of work that gets offered, because everybody has these sort of presets that we come through, that we have certain things that we're meant to break out of, certain things that we're, muscles that we're meant to build, skills and lessons and things that we're tailor fit to. And so the actual representation of ego or inner child can look quite different and can appear different, in not just person to person, but inner times that we go and talk to them, that we go and witness them or share with them or ask them, for communication or, want to provide service to them. They can be different representations. And so it's But when we take it down to the heart center, right, and we are within our sovereign worth, the truth of these things becomes more apparent, and the relaxation of the space becomes there. Because when you get into your heart center and when you actually work with your emotional body and your sovereign worth and your connection to source, your faith, you find your own inner flame, right? The thing that ignites you, the thing that burns within you, that you literally can feel. Buzzing, tingling, igniting, warmth, whatever the case may be for you, there's a variety of feelings in there. But when we allow and we listen and we accept them for what they are, that's how we build a heart-centered thinking. That's how we start to coordinate and actually seek balance between the mind and the heart. So many of us, and I speak from perfect example of myself, we spent years in matrix overlay mind control systems where we're shutting our heart out, where we're, creating boundaries around it, caging it, protecting it, forcing it to be a certain way. And when it does speak up, or it does, finally scream out, we have all these excuses and reasons and logic things that our brain speaks much louder up there to us, and we'll just completely shut the heart down. And so this is why, like, when we're waking up, when we're finding ourselves, there's just so much depth and availability to balancing work, But I do think, the light at the end of the tunnel, the thing we should always be like following and seeking, that cord back to source, is rooted in truth and unconditional love and acceptance for what is. And of course, that doesn't align with the negative overlay whatsoever, So we see a lot of disturbances and distortions around that. But like I said, we are approaching graduation, and whether, the Archons like it or not, is happening, It's a force of organic nature. Just like it doesn't matter whether a farmer, it's a organic, positively aligned, service to others person who's running a farm, who comes from total space of love, loves what they do, and shares all their food, or whether it's a big pharma Monsanto monocrop run. The polarities of the work really doesn't matter when winter season is approaching on the plane, on the planet. Both those farms and both those farm settings are going to deal with the frost because it's an organic template at run. It's much larger than humanity, and both of them are gonna face it, and they're gonna face it in much different ways. Because of their intentions and their energetic alignments, along with every other thing that comes with setting up circumstance. So it's my hope with this video. I'm opening up a little bit more room, spreading the bars, kicking the fences down or whatever, getting people to see the big landscape, the horizon out there, and to know that we have great chances at present moment. This is the time of choice. That's what we're meant here to do, to live in the moment and to make the best conscious choices that we can make that align with whatever we're seeking in an honest way. And that can be negative or positive. It's your right to choose as an individual here. And that practice in itself of allowing and opening and just saying, okay, well, everybody's free to choose. That can even be the first steps into awakening your heart and awakening your empathy and connection to humanity as a whole, and others around you, and that in itself can be a lot of work because we have so much mind control things. They'll be like, close the doors, shut it up, nope, don't blockade yourself, protect yourself, you're never going to last out there, self-preservation and all this kind of stuff. And it's when we recognize that and when we can ask, do I really want that? Does that feel good to me? And we can say, no, it feels like separation and disconnect. It feels like dying, a slowing down, a retreat. What am I doing with that? I want to feel positive and expansive and make creations and seek newness and curiosities and new experiences and test my muscles and stuff, But again, not all of us want that. And so for those of us who do, and for those of us who are waking up, it's so important to just come to the table that we're all at, and let's share what we've got from, as a unbiased eyes as possible, and talk about what we see and share what we see. And that coming to the table is a huge step. It's a huge proving point of real work at sovereignty and of understanding of sovereignty. Because when you go to take that step up to the table and share openly vulnerabilities of yourself and of things that you actually care for, the creations that you've started, ideas and things that are full of emotion and full of energy and full of love of yours, and you're going to hand it out to let it be free, there's nothing like it. There's nothing more exciting, more adventurous, and more scary, more terrifying than that, But the proof's in the pudding when you make the step, when you stand up and you do it, and you see your legs are strong enough to make that step and to stand up there and to come to the table with what you have. And many of us are trying, and you know what I mean? Like, as you go to try to do the work, oh, my computer is dying. Sorry. When you go to do the work and you go to make the step up, if you trip, if your leg wobbles, if you're shaking, if your thighs aren't strong enough to step up yet, or your arms are crumbling over what you're trying to share, or your heart is collapsed because you're so scared and you can't even come forth strongly, or you have anchors and attachments from 3D Matrix that's like yanking you backwards, or Maybe it's quicksand underneath that step for you, because a lot of us it is. You think it's a full step and you go to step up into sovereign worth and whoop, you fall right back down into slavedom, servitude, because you weren't aware of that sand pit that was laid out for you right before the sovereign step. There's such a variety of things that we come to the sovereign table with, but do the work and see what comes up. If obstacles come up, work through them. Don't let it deter you from actually seeking truth for yourself and seeking acceptance and to come to the table as your sovereign self. That is work that you're meant to do. Those are things that you're meant to do. And when you are meant to finally get that real step up, and share these things, you will feel the triumph that comes with that. And that's what we're seeing now, is more and more people approaching, more and more people trying to get up, struggling with ego, falling back, really working through what's lies and truth, what's illusions and what's real. And, there's no two ways about it. You only do it by doing it. So who cares about the mistakes? Who cares about the fumbles? Just get in your own space of working towards that truth for yourself, for that real space of sovereignty. And before you know it, it'll be like, ding, the step will just be so easy. And you'll be like, oh, here it is. And yeah, actually, I don't care what you think of me. I love you anyway. I see worth in your criticisms. I see mistakes. Okay, great. I did make a couple of mistakes. Or, oh, I left that out. Thank you for allowing me new information and seeing that. And not allowing it to look back and be like, oh, I was such an idiot. Oh, why am I so stupid? Oh, how didn't I see that? No, that's doesn't even cross the spectrum for you, because, or if it does, and sometimes it does, and sometimes they're little back comments where your heart-centered higher self and your more aware mind can actually say, hey, that's not really helpful. That's not actually true. The probability of that possibility is 0.0052, and I have things that are 50% possible over here, or 40, or 100% possible. So I'm not going to listen to your little side critique that actually doesn't matter in the big picture of things. There's lots of different things that we work through in ways that we get to this place. And it's ever evolving and ever changing as well, because the more heart-centered we get, and the more that we connect and we're trying to seek truth, the more that we're calling up bigger lies, more we're getting into more depth of things, the stronger that our light becomes. But I do think, when we can get more people to this place of even trying to make the steps to really in their own world find their sovereign self and present it out in space to others and create these little bubble realities of, I like to call it communion. I know that kind of is a trigger word for religious people, and also might seem like I'm corralling people into a dogma, but I don't have a religious background, and so I don't even really understand or know about the instructions and the setup of walking through the hierarchy within the church. And I know there's a point called communion. They're little check marks to make in their negative agenda, but in their ladder to nowhere. But anyways, when I say the word communion, I mean real truth, an honest place of sharing that is open and heart-centered, that seeks positive solutions. It seeks to see things as they are and to find the best solution for as they are and move through to what's next. And that space of communion where we bring others in and we truly listen to them from our heart space, and we give them time, and we offer them back information that is helpful, that is solution focused. This is another huge step that happens when we start to work through and try to hold that bubble of communion and try to go out in the world with it and share it and do real work in real case scenarios, right? The ego sometimes can be really, really strong. We're out there trying to share our opinion and push it on to others, and we find out, oh, as soon as they speak, I have a reply. I have an overcast or an overlay I want to put on them. I have to put my 2 cents in now. I have to just change the way they're seeing it. or help them or shut that down or change it. And it's like, none of those things need to be done. But that is a different kind of new working that comes with stepping up to the table, is learning to balance what you are sharing and how and why, because you come from an intention of positive alignment. And when we're doing that, when we're seeking positive alignment, we don't want to infringe on others. We don't want to push opinions onto other people to force things. We want to offer up insight, information, new choices, and allow them to take them as they see fit, when they see fit, how they see fit. And then to allow them the chance to explain their perspective of why they chose that and offer it up. And we listen, and we actually take it in as valuable, as another valuable data point on the spectrum. It doesn't have to change ours. It doesn't make your opinion or your beliefs or whatever you had, whatever kind of reply you want to have, or whatever your personal opinion would be on the subject if you were asked, right? It's not that that's not important or that doesn't exist or that is changed by what they share. You get into a space where you can hold space and you hold information out. And it's not such a part of you that any attack or any prodding or any examination or looking into or critiques on the thing within the space of communion reflects back on you as a sovereign person. You know that's not true. You know you're a total separate entity versus the space of communion and things that happen within that space. And that, once everybody can get into more of a place like that, I feel like that will be, after graduation. We'll see that happening after graduation with the majority of people who choose to have done the work and are ready to ascend. And those who are not will have a 3D scape to stay in, and to renew the cycles and to learn more deeply lessons they're ready to learn. So I've almost talked for an hour this morning already. I feel like I sort of covered everything I wanted to. And I guess I will leave it at that for now. I hope I kind of summed up the space that I'm going to share in and creating here on my channels. And really hold open this space for everyone and anyone who would like to comment or reply, or who would like to, tone their muscles and do some exercise in the work that I just talked about stepping forth from sovereignty, about sharing in a space of communion, about offering up insights and opinions into that beautiful sacred space without judgments, without bias, without, worrying about those kind of negative infringing repercussions that might be created. So if you feel called to share, reply, send me an email. My email's always in the description in the comments as well. If you feel like you have something to share or you'd like some practice in that, anything. In the meantime, you can always find me on Spotify or Telegram. A. Marie Speaks over there. And yeah, look forward. If you are finding me on YouTube, check the links out for BitChute and check out my other Negative Agenda series videos if that inspires you. Or definitely check back within a week or so. I'll be putting out my Archonic timeline if that so intrigues you. If you'd like to see what pinpoints I have for markers, or if you're interested and you have a lot of references and resources out there and you want to compare them, you can look for that video pretty soon. So thank you so much for listening to me and witnessing my journey, and thank you for your beautiful contribution to our collective. I hope you have a beautiful day or evening wherever in the world you are. I'll see you next time.